Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.
New kid, get dressed and meet me out front. The night awaits. The Freedom Pals need your help. Cartman doesn't get it. He's a fool. I'm stuck defending the city against evil. With barely any time to work on my pitch for a Mysterion spin-off movie. We need you, new kid. Will you join us? Freedom Pals, unite! Merry Christmas, everybody! South Park, the fractured but home.
A sequel, a rare sequel to one of our already reviews that we've done in the past, which is why I asked for 30 minutes originally, because I thought about this when you asked to do a review. I'm like, oh, after the game, I should go back and listen to our one we did before. And so that's what I took. It was actually 30 minutes, so I took 30 minutes to listen to that. We did it way back in November of 2016, and it had a whopping 10 views so far.
Ooh.
So really projecting high numbers, this is when it really picks off. And see that up and to the right hockey stick that you always want to see in these kind of things. For cumulative views.
They always say leave them wanting more, and it's been a year. So
it's been a lot. 2016, Tristan. This was 2016.
Okay, so there we go. There we go.
At least from the last Stick of Truth, it's also been a year since we actually done a review, I believe, because we haven't been on Skype for a year, and I hear the fans are clamoring at the gates, but they're all stuck in Sweden or wherever they're supposed to be.
We thank both of you for listening.
Correct.
So you just finished this game, and
I did.
You have me a bit of disadvantage, I guess, because you listened to the review, because I didn't go back.
Well, I'll give you a review of the review. We spend about 5% or less on the actual game of Stick of Truth. Most of it is the history of video games and where we think it's going in the future, and discussing AR and VR and where we're going to be in 10 years. Nothing to do with Stick of Truth, at all. So. Hey, it was a good ride. I'll give a plug for that review. It's definitely a good ride, but it has nothing to do with the Stick of Truth, or very little. We discuss it briefly at the beginning and a little in the middle, but then we go off on a huge tangent.
So you just finished the game, and what was your playing of it? How long did it take you to beat? How often did you play it?
Well, I got it, about 2 or 3 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. Maybe actually a little longer than that. I would have got it end of April. But then I went on vacation for like a week, and then I came back and did nothing but blow through all of Game of Thrones, because since that series was ending, I felt that I had to watch it, even though 2 years ago I started watching the first 2 seasons, and I'm like, this is stupid, and I turned it off.
That's another good review potential.
Yeah, if you have seen Game of Thrones, that might be a good one to go over.
I have not,
because I have. That's basically what I spent the last 3 weeks doing, is not doing nothing but blowing through all of Game of Thrones because it was ending. I figure I got to stay relevant.
All right, but back to Fractured.
Anyway, so I blew through that because you're like, oh, do the game. I want to do a review. I'm like, all right, fine. But I wanted to finish Game of Thrones first. So I did that, and I finished that about the weekend before last. And then, basically all this past week, I've finished Fractured But Whole, and then finished it literally an hour ago.
All right.
So, in fact, it's still even on, and I can tell you the exact game time.
Yeah, probably.
Says 26 hours, 38 minutes.
Okay. I'm probably around that. I played the whole game over, I don't know, I want to say the span of a month, and I played the 2 DLCs that come with it.
Yeah, you said you got those.
Yeah, I saw that it was on a Steam sale, like 75% off, or not a Steam sale, but a PS4 sale. And so, I gotta say, overall, like, I feel like this game is overall worse than Stick of Truth. That's where I'm starting out with.
I feel like I can agree to that.
Yeah.
I feel like Stick of Truth was a lot longer and a more thorough storyline, whereas this one this whole game almost seemed like a DLC kind of thing to the Stick of Truth.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it took me to play through the Stick of Truth, but 26 hours, I would think Stick of Truth was maybe more closer to 40 if I had to guess.
Yeah, I probably played like 35 hours, like a little bit longer, just because the DLCs, and I felt it. Like I'm amazed that a game with a level cap of like 10 just felt like it took forever. It was towards the middle, it just started becoming a slog, and I really stopped enjoying the game.
Storyline wise, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I never really got to that point. I don't think. I enjoyed the ride, but I felt like the ride was too short.
Okay.
But now that I'm looking at 26 hours, I didn't realize it was that much. I thought it was if I picked out of the blue, I would have said, "Oh yeah, I beat it in like 12."
Yeah, I think that it's a long game, to me at least, because I just found so many aspects of it to be really not fun to participate in.
Right, I felt like the battles really dragged on. Like once you beat like the raisins or the crab people, like I'm done with that. But then you keep having to refight them, and I'm like, I don't want to spend 10, 20 minutes on another battle with these stupid things.
I know.
And that part dragged on. The repeated fights.
The repeated fights, I would choose like one or two like guys who who could deal a lot of damage. And part of it was that like, so I had set the fights to the easiest possible mode, and still I found them just to be just a big slog and not fun, because I ended up like doing the same, 3 moves and then the one power up move.
Exactly.
Whatever.
And that's how my experience was the same.
Yeah, and every battle is basically the same. The grid system is kind of weird, just because I kind of found it interesting. The different characters have different ways that they attack on the grid. That was
a big change between the Stick of Truth and this one. Was before you were kind of stuck in your spot, and then you like take turns attacking each other. But you did have like mana and PP points and all this other stuff where they really stripped that back. I think made the battles simpler, where you just picked one of 3 moves basically. But you moved around the grid, which really threw me at first. I didn't like that. When I'm like, what is this? Why do I can only move so many spaces? But then I think as the game progressed, I got used to that, and I kind of liked it more the more I went through it. But I still think the Stick of Truth battle system was actually better than this, if I recall.
One common complaint I have about the Stick of Truth and the Fractured But Hold system, the combat system, both, is that status effects are so powerful and so, you can basically do as much damage with like a status effect,
right?
As you can do during your normal attack, and if you can just get a bunch of status attacks that do damage, the game becomes basically just a waiting game for people who you've infected with some sort of status malady, just waiting for them to die.
Yeah, just wait it out. That's how I kind of started. Was like I throw fireballs at something because I can't reach it yet, and then over the course of 2 or 3 turns, it just kills himself because every time they come up to bat, they inflict 200 whatevers to themselves.
Damage. Yeah. The combat system in Stick of Truth also had things like you could upgrade your sword with like different status modifiers or whatever.
Yeah, I felt like there wasn't much on this one, but you kind of had like an overall thing with like the badges or whatever they were.
The badges that are implied that you just insert them into your rectum, then basically your ability to customize your character in terms of combat, which again, I wouldn't be whining about, except that it's probably like half of that 26 hours. The battles are very long.
Right.
They take a very long time to do. I would say that probably like a third to half of your time in this game is spent in these
easily
very, very similar battles, and the thing that you have the thing that you have to customize yourself is basically boils down to put this thing with a higher number in place of a thing with a lower number. You know, this badge that has a higher number on it in place of a lower number badge, and that's how you level up, quote unquote. It feels like you're not actually doing anything, and you just sort of earn better badges, like when you kill enemies as you progress. It's a very, like, stripped down, uninteresting leveling system.
Yes, because I like the games where you like, you discover like a better sword, and then you like trade it in for another better sword. But you didn't really have that here. Who was your go-to people?
Stan. It was because he had powerful diagonal attacks and frontward and backward attacks. And then I had so basically, again, it's all about just maximizing the amount of area and the thing you can damage with.
Right.
And then I had the weird mosquito guy. Not because I like the character at all, because he was a status effect damage character, and would you get me through the battles faster? Like, again, the problem with the game is that, like, I'm basically just forced to fight with. And then the third guy was a guy who was only in the DLCs, Mintberry Crunch, which is.
I remember him from the show, but I don't. Yeah, he's not in the normal game.
Basically, just stood around until the power meter built up, and then I would have him do a super attack. That's another thing that's like.
Was that Butters?
No, who was
Mintberry Crunch? I remember he's a character in the show. I remember the show.
Okay, so here's I really did like the superhero like aspect of the TV show, which by the way was 7 years ago, or like actually I think it was like 2010 was when they were
like
the superhero.
It's been a while.
Which is like you're referencing 9-year-old episodes, like when I watched that episode and conceived that baby, now he's in 3rd grade, you know, or whatever, right? You know,
right. Well, this game also came out in 2016, I think. So you're already 3 years into.
Oh, I am. Oh, I guess I am. Yeah.
3 years beyond when it came out.
Okay. All right. So But still, I mean, 6 years, that's still a long time.
Well, they did a couple episodes, because they did the first one, which was about 2010, and then I thought like a couple years later on, they came back with like another one, and then they did another one more recently.
Okay.
Because they keep like all the Marvel references in the game, like obviously like, you know, the Coon wants to do the franchising, like that wasn't part of the original storyline. That's more of a recent development thing with the whole Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. Coming together.
Yeah, I did like that part of it, like the kids doing like a playing superheroes, but it like they're playing superheroes like as like franchise owners,
right.
You know, like creating these tentpole. Like, I mean, I really
right.
Like
they're not doing it to play. I'm not the Coon because I want to be the Coon. I'm the Coon because I want to franchise and make money.
right, exactly. I want to start my own superhero franchise. Yeah, no, that's a pretty great thing. But in the episodes, the like basically they're all playing superheroes, and there's this new kid, and just because it's just like it's South Park, there's always like some random kid you haven't met in the background or whatever. And then he's like, oh, and it's like, I'm this guy, my superpower is this, my superpower is this. And then it gets this guy, and he's like, I am Mintberry Crunch with the power of mint and berry, and it's just like he's like just the lamest superhero, like a cereal superhero mascot. But then at the end, it's revealed that he's actually like from another planet, and all his powers are real, and like he's an actual superhero, and like that part I actually found was really funny. But like I got him because he has a super powerful attack that again, it's like when you get the ultimate thing, it allows you to damage everybody on the field. It allows you to make yourself immune to enemies' attacks for one turn. So basically, you'll just like damage everybody who's your enemy, and also make yourself immune to attack, and your damage gets buffed. Like your damage protection gets buffed. You know, like I mean, so it's just an obvious choice. I really do like Cartman's ultimate move. That's of course like my favorite. You know, where it's like
The franchising.
he's just dreaming of inside the actor studio. I mean, that's pretty good. But the problem is that you had to watch that thing over and over again, and God, it got old after a while. So everything about the battles got old after a while.
Yep.
Everything about the mini games got old after a while. About like, I don't know, like an hour in, I found the setting that allowed you just to press R1 to skip the mini games, and I just stuck with that to the very end.
I found I didn't know that existed, but if you fail a mini game, it gets exponentially easier.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if you did you do the unicorn one with the
The
fish?
The unicorn one was great.
You start off with 3 hearts, and then you like crash and die, and then you get like 5 hearts, and then you crash and die, and then you get like 50 hearts, and then you can beat it.
Yeah. I liked that. No, that was good. But the superhero thing is a good thing in the show, but one of the damaging parts of it, and this is sort of like my main beef with what they kind of did, was one of the reasons why I like this game less than Stick of Truth was that since they're playing superheroes and Kenny's superhero is Mysterion, like that really doesn't make the 4-kid dynamic group work. Like Mysterion is not Kenny. That's my kind of my realization in playing this, is that they're not the same character.
Well, I think it's different because if you recall, you know, Kenny was dropped from the show years ago. I think he officially died in the movie, which was like 2006.
Yes.
And for a long time, nothing happened. And then all of a sudden you have the superhero episode. And I can't remember if Kenny was in the first one or he was revealed to be Kenny much later. But at some point, Mysterion became a character in the show, and you learn throughout one of the episodes that he is actually Kenny.
Yes. And that his dying is
his superpower. Right. Yeah, he's aware of his own superpower, which I thought was a great tie-in, you know, during the show.
I thought that was a great twist, and you know, Kenny dying on the show originally was like a fourth wall break, right? Like when they say, "Oh my God, you killed Kenny," they're talking to the people who made the show. You know, like that's what that is. But and then they just like, I guess, kill them off for real because they didn't want to deal with like the gag of killing him off every episode. Right. But then it got turned into I get killed all the time and none of you remember it, which was an interesting twist. But then, like, because it's South Park and because they have established that, like, in the continue of the show can be destroyed by Godzilla or whatever, and then it's fine the next episode. Once that was revealed, Kenny could stop being Mysterion and then just go back to being Kenny. In this game, Mysterion is just sort of like, I don't know, like a Batman character or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Kenny was never really entered. It was just that's just one of the nagging things that gets at me about this game.
He was there, but he wasn't like a main plot point. He served no purpose. Yeah. You can remove him completely from this game and you lose nothing.
Yeah, you lose nothing. But I kind of missed. Well, what I missed too is that I thought there was going to be a scene where he goes into the heavy metal world because of, you know, and that's something that I was really expecting, and I was really sad that didn't happen. There was no like heavy metal like sequence or whatever, you know. Yeah.
Well, because like this game seemed to have drawn on like a handful of episodes, and there were some callbacks, but there were few, I feel. Whereas the Stick of Truth, I felt like they were throughout the whole thing. Now, that might also be because I think the Stick of Truth is a lot longer game. That there was a lot of little stories that got tied together because, like, now you got to do this. Now you go over here, and there's a whole nother story. And then you go over here, and you do a whole nother story. Whereas in this game, it seems to be you're finding a cat, and then all of a sudden you're fighting Mitch Connor, and that's like the two storylines,
Yes.
and that's it. Whereas before you fought the UFOs and you had the ongoing dynamics between the two, like elving kingdoms, and and different ties to other storylines. Whereas this one was really just two main ones.
Yes. So the two parts of this game, the two main parts of this game, I don't think exploration really counts as a major integral part of either game, although it's present, but it's not like a major part. But I think it would be fair to say that like the two facets of this game are the narrative and the combat, right? That's kind of what you spend most of your time in. When you're not in a combat scene, you're either walking around on your way to the next narrative scene, or you're in combat, right? So
pretty much.
Yeah, so
I mean, I would have liked like this. This could have easily been like an almost. I don't want to say choose your own adventure, but like if you shorten the combats significantly, and either maybe even make it real time fighting or something like that just goes a lot faster.
Yeah.
This would almost be like experiencing an extended episode, start to finish. I mean,
that's what was really good about like the first game, and to the extent this game is that it does kind of feel like you're playing through a South Park episode.
Yeah.
But the narrative problems with this plot are way, way, way worse than they were with the Stick of Truth. And I part of my half-quarter asked research for this review was looking up the plot summaries of both the Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole on Wikipedia. And basically, the Stick of Truth has a plot, B plot structure, which is plot one is a conflict. The A plot is the conflict between the kids over the magic stick, and the B plot is the aliens crashing into town and the government covering up. Right?
Yeah.
Those two things drive every event in the plot of Stick of Truth. And then I included at the end, there's like a reveal, quote unquote, where it's just like, oh, new kid, you're actually wanted by the government because you are so good at making Facebook friends. That was like maybe a plot, but I feel like that was just sort of like a, oh, here you've been doing this friends mechanic or whatever this entire game. Well, this is actually, you're wanted by us because you're so good at making friends. I don't know, right? Which is also like present in this game as well. So I don't understand. I don't understand like how you're the I don't know. But the plot, the plots in Fractured But Whole are the A plot is the and the strongest plot is the conflict between the kids over the superhero franchises. And then plot 2 is the missing cats, which ties into the first plot because they want to get $100 so they could start their super. I like that. I like that. It's just like, oh yeah, they want $100 so they can start their franchise, whatever.
Right.
But the thing that I didn't get, and this is apparently I must have missed this or something, is that the cat urine is increasing crime. So the B plot is actually missing cats and in crime increasing because the cats are like peeing in all the alcohol and drugs, and that's making people do crime.
Yeah, well, I think this is a tie back to an episode because I vaguely remember them using that in an episode where it causes people to go crazy.
Yeah,
and in the context of this game, it has the same effect. And apparently, Mitch Connor, aka the Coon, aka Eric, apparently his whole plan was to get people riled up and committing crimes so that his franchise has a reason to exist and to keep going.
Yeah.
Because the more crime in the city, the more need there is for someone like the Coon to come in and stop it.
Yeah. So
But I don't think
part...
I don't think it really worked well here.
I don't think so, because the thing is that fundamentally the superhero franchise idea is just like it's a kid's game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any real world stakes. It's just a game between the kids. They're not actually, well, they're never in the game, at least. Like, there's no like time where like they actually like solve crimes or defeat supervillain. You know, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
very, very little. I mean, like going after the cat for the reward, you can make an argument that was
right.
superhero-ish, but beyond that, like, you're right. You can't really pull it back from between, you're just playing in the backyard versus actually going out and fighting crime.
Yeah.
Because I believe in the show, they actually like fought criminals or and went out and did something real, versus this is just playing in the backyard is the kind of how they set it up. So I mean, from that standpoint, I think that overall, I do think the elf world in Stick of Truth is better suited for the video game, and I think has a stronger storyline. But I do like the superhero aspect of this, of how they tied it in. So
I think it's a good world to play in. I just think that they executed I just think they really just messed up on the B plot. The driver of all of this is that Cartman wants to be like in charge of the superhero franchise and have his group of superheroes or whatever be like the only game in town, and he controls it, and
right.
But he's so unlikable and he's so awful and just a jerk that nobody wants to hang around him. That's the thing that should be driving the plot. I did like the end of it, but I felt like they just sort of like, all right, that's it.
Right,
like,
that's where I felt like I played like half a game, because that's where I'm like, I think I finished it, because I thought I'd still had a lot more to go, because even when I started today, it said I was 55% of the way through on the progress bar, which most of the time usually means, you can't get to 100 unless you 100% the game and get every single artifact. And so I'm thinking, okay, I got to get to around 70, 75 to beat it. But then I beat it in like an hour playing today. I'm like, oh, I guess that's it?
I guess that's it.
Which many episodes of South Park I feel like end like that. Or it's just like, something happens, somebody says something, and they're like, all right, guys, let's go over here. Or, let's do this. And then
yeah. So I think I would have been fine with that sort of ending if like the preceding game had like a clear narrative focus and enjoyable like conflict. Oh, I'll say no. Actually, now that I think about it, so like I'm gonna say it's like I'm gonna say it's a third conflict, a third narrative story, and then a third puzzle solve.
Yeah, some of that kind of dragged, and I even had to look up what the heck I'm supposed to do in some of those.
If I had to see that goddamn fart animation one more time, or if I had to watch Butters shove a hamster up my ass one more time.
It's just so long of a segment. And then like what I also didn't get was, so I had to like search for whatever, when I needed a friend, right? But when I found I had to pick which friend uses this very specific looking, like the fan is always going to be the kite. Why am I searching for which one does the kite? And then
I know.
And then it shows a shadow of where you need to stand to call the kite. Why doesn't it just automatically show up when I hit the kite? Like it just, and then you see the kite animation of him come. Like, just get to the point.
I know. I don't need to see Stan shove a hose up my butt every time I want to clear away.
The Legos, which I like the Legos.
Yeah, I do like the Legos at the very end, especially
Yeah,
when they just
how do you do that?
There's moments that I enjoyed, right?
Yes,
and
I still think overall I enjoyed this game. I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I played through it. It could have been better. I still feel the Stick of Truth was good or better than this one. However, I still feel like this one and even Stick of Truth is one of the best adaptations from any TV or movie into a video game because those normally do not go well at all.
Yes.
But these, yes. I think it works and it works well, and I think it's one of the best examples of doing that.
So I would say that Stick of Truth is how I felt about that. This I was definitely thinking I was thinking just like, why is this a video game? Like I would have preferred playing or watching whatever the hell was going to happen in Fractured But Whole, like
as a show, that's what I was saying before. Like shorten the battles significantly, and I think you have a really good product here. A short product because it would be a lot shorter, but I think it's a solid experience. Plot points aside, you know. But you're right. I mean, there's definitely something lagging here compared to Stick of Truth.
Yeah.
And I did like Stick of Truth a lot more than this one, but I still think it was a good experience overall.
I don't think so. I mean you know,
there's a lot of time wasters. I'll give you that. But end to end, you know, I generally like it.
But when you look at all the stuff that they've done, all the stuff that these guys have done,
it's
like
kind of incredible.
Yeah, like they're just their productivity is off the friggin' charts.
Right. Well, considering they do these episodes, they turn them around in what, like less than a week? Sometimes like 3 days. Voice acting, animation, the whole shebang. It's done. Yeah. A lot of times they take like real time events that happened like 4 days ago and turn it into an episode. It's like, how did you even do this? Like a Simpsons episode takes 5 months to plan and do everything, and that's one episode. They do this stuff in a weekend. And
the animation style so lends itself so well to gameplay.
It does. It really does.
In a way that we're getting back into maybe what we were talking about in the first review, is that we're way away from having that with really anything else because South Park says such primitive animation. Like technology has caught up to it to the point where it can perfectly,
replicate.
Can really render this crude animation like very easily, and what futures or the world holds for us is something like this. Only like with The Simpsons, okay, where it feels like you're playing an episode of The Simpsons.
See, the problem with like The Simpsons though is they use a lot of angles. Even though it's a flat animation style, they still use a lot of 3D and angle type of environments. Whereas this one's completely flat. That's why this works so much better than The Simpsons. Because if you try to turn the Simpsons episode into a game, I don't think it's going to work nearly as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like even the town works so well too, because when you walk into the distance, like everything's just smaller. It's just it's a 2D. I've heard it's 2.5D. World that you're interacting with.
Right.
Which it's definitely an okay video game. But it's
a solid sequel, I think. Like if it was just this and no Stick of Truth, I don't think I'd like this as much.
Yeah. Did you play Stick of Truth before this at all? Like, or did you?
Not since the last time we reviewed it in 2016. I had to think back of where because it's a direct sequel, right? Like it picks up literally where the Stick of Truth ends, which I liked. I can respect that.
I did like that. What I was sad about was, although I wouldn't really know either way, but I would have really liked the option to import your character
from the previous, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that it would have really mattered because there aren't any significant choices you could have made in the previous one that would affect your gameplay here,
Right.
You know, and even if you did, the combat system is so totally different that nothing could really be passed along.
Except for like your costume or whatever you wore.
Yeah, maybe your costume or something. But yeah, like I just the entire time I would say that it was especially whenever scenes outside of like the two superhero franchises fighting, every time that there were narrative scenes outside of that, I was just thinking, you know, is this really the best use of your time, guys? You know, like, is this like, you know, because they're able to produce some fantastic stuff, and I really, beyond anything, they really have a talent for musicals. So I'm just sort of like, you guys probably with the effort you put into this, I'm gonna say 5 out of 10 game. I mean, you probably rated higher.
6 or 7 to me.
6 or 7, okay. You could have made like, you know, because this is it's a lot of work doing like a video game like this, you know, and especially when you're doing all the voices, like you guys could have made something new, something different. And honestly, I would have rather seen that, you know. South Park already is kind of getting into like weird territory in terms of like, I feel like the magic is kind of gone.
Yeah. You know, I haven't really seen an episode in like the past 3 years or so. Because when I played The Stick of Truth, like I played maybe a fourth of the game, and then I realized like I don't remember any of these references, so I stopped, and I went back and I watched every episode up until that day. And then I played it again, and I enjoyed it so much more because I got like every joke that they put in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've really seen South Park since. So I haven't seen any episode from like the last 3 years. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're going with it.
It really well, I'll tell you what, it really jumped off the rails when after the 2016 election, like everything else, because they thought, like everyone else, that Donald Trump was not going to win. Mm-hmm. They made Mr. Garrison into like a Donald Trump-esque figure.
Really?
Who they never planned to deal with him he basically became like, he became Trump. Mr. Garrison became a Trump character. And they did not plan for him at all ever to be the president.
Right.
And now you just have these really awkward scenes where Mr. Garrison is now president of the United States.
What?
And they don't know what to do with him. They really don't.
Like that's not just for one episode. That's legit like lore from now on.
From now on, yes. They went into a semi-serialized kind of version of South Park, kind of, you know, I'm going to say in like 2015, where like they didn't have like, I would describe the show as now like semi-serialized because they have serial episodes where they, you know, they're standalone, but there will be continuity between different things. Yeah, so, you know, like Randy quit his job and started a weed farm, and so basically now Stan lives on a weed farm. You know, like, and that's like
major developments that I don't know anything about apparently.
Right. So, yeah, so it's a you know, it's kind of changed a little bit, and honestly, I would say in retrospect, like now, I don't think. I think they realized this too, is that the episodes need to be standalone. You know, like
they kind of do. I mean, I think that formula worked for them really well in the past.
Because the ability to destroy the town and then like have it find the next episode or whatever is one of the the sort of strengths of South Park.
Mhm.
You know, like
Because they
is
could
that
do
it just-
anything. They could do anything they want, and then everything's back to normal.
right. They just hit the reset button at the end of every episode.
right.
But yeah, it hasn't. I don't want to say it hasn't been doing well. Like I don't think that it's and it could just be me, right? I getting kind of growing out of it, but the Garrison Trump thing is kind of just like a symptom of a larger problem of like I don't think they know what to do with these characters, like I don't think they
Like they're kind of fresh out of ideas, sort of.
yeah, like I don't think that there's not a whole lot of place to go. Basically, what South Park is now is current event of the week, and this town of South Park dealing with it.
Mhm.
I guess it's always been that, but like
It kind of has, but in the past, like it just so smartly, like it was just a smart satirical commentary on, real life.
Yeah.
Whereas it almost sounds like what you're saying is it's no longer that, and it's just random things that match what's going on.
Yeah, it's random things that going on to South Park, and I guess I suppose it's been like that in a way for forever. But I feel like the strongest episodes are, and the creators have said it themselves, is where the kids are just being like kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think I haven't seen one of those stories in a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the A plots of these video games are so strong. Is
Right, because it does
they're
tie
based-
into that.
Yeah, because they're
based in that,
just
anyway.
kids playing. They're playing fantasy games, like and that's a good that's a good core. Kids playing games in your neighborhood. Like that's something everybody can kind of relate to.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, I wanted to get into this, and we'll probably, I guess, close out or whatever. But your four main characters, one doesn't ever talk. So.
Which I'm not usually a fan of. I'm not usually a fan of the silent protagonist, which is so prevalent in video games and other media. I never really got that. I mean, I understand that's supposed to be you, and you're not really there, so you don't really talk. So, like, but that dynamic I just don't think works.
Do you think it worked in this game?
No, because people keep asking you questions, and then you're just standing there like an idiot, staring blankly,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I just feel like, what? I would have liked this a
Yeah.
lot better if I was Kyle or if I was Stan, and that dynamic between fighting Eric the whole time in this game and the last game.
The inclusion of the new kid, I don't think is very necessary because there isn't it's Kyle and Stan are such empty vessels that you could basically pour any player character into them and they'd be fine.
You should, you should be playing as Kyle or Stan. That would be my preference.
Yeah. Cartman's the antagonist.
Right, he's your bad guy, so you're not going to play as him, I don't think.
You're not going to play as him. Kenny is Kenny
Absent.
doesn't. Yeah, Kenny's just as Mysterion. He's this weird demigod, and as Kenny, he's just this muffled. He doesn't talk. Kind of side character who always dies. Who's literally so important that his running gag is that he always dies.
But only Professor Chaos has a strong claim to fame.
Butters is the one exception because Butters is the most developed character
Correct.
who's not angry.
And I feel like you could almost even play as Butters too. Any of those three would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
that's my hot take.
It could be better. I agree with you. To wrap up, I did like the dynamics of the Elfin Kingdom a little better. I think it's a better setting for this kind of a game. But I'm glad they did this. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best, but I enjoyed it. Would be my take.
Do better.
Do better.
Do better, Trent.
We know you can do better.
I'm sure they will just like, hear this and then dab their eyes on the $100 bills
Correct.
that they recline in. Like it's ultimately at the end of the day, it's a video game based on a TV series or whatever. But I think that doesn't take anything really too seriously. I don't know how much of them is in this. Is what I'll say.
That is the thing. Like, I do wonder now that you mentioned that. How much was Ubisoft and how much was Trey and Matt?
Right.
And I gotta feel like it's more the former in this one.
Yeah. I feel.
And they just showed up to kind of read the lines.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that. I think they sketched out a plot and then maybe went through one or two, or I don't know, but I don't know how these games get made or whatever. So strike that. But
right.
They went through some, like kind of calibration meetings of Ubisoft, and then they went off and made this, and it doesn't seem like it captures the like the spirit of the show and how the show usually has a very very a very clear narrative framework that they work on, and that got lost here.
I think so, a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
This has been a presentation of Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.